Hey there, are you looking for a new way to connect with your crystals and take your journey with crystals a step further? If you're anything like me, you are always looking for a way to get more in flow, stay more in connection with your natural cycles and the ebb and flow of energy that you feel, right? Just kind of stay in sync with how you're feeling and your connection to the universe. Well, crystals are great for helping you connect with the energy of the moon and stay in flow with the rhythms and cycle of the lunar phases. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the 8 major lunar phases and what they're each about and the best crystals for each. This is from my book, Cosmic Crystals, and I am really excited to kind of share this with you in a different way. So one thing that I get asked a lot when it comes to making magic with the moon is, what do I actually do? Well, I'm going to get to that, but first I want to tell you about some of these crystal and lunar correspondences. So first, you need to understand how the lunar cycle works and how the moon actually moves through its different phases. If you think about our month, the word month actually comes from the word moon, and so the length of a month is about 1 full lunar cycle. So as the moon moves through each of its phases, it's in each phase for just a couple of days. So every few days, the energy is changing and shifting. This cycle starts with the new moon. The new moon can be a little bit tricky, and I'm going to talk about that at the end, but for now, hang with me here. So the new moon is the time when the moon is completely dark. So what this means is that if you have the sun and it's shining toward the earth, the moon is over here. So the earth is kind of blocking it. There's no sunlight reflecting off of the moon's surface, so it appears dark to us. This is a time for adventure and anticipation and blessings, new beginnings, new opportunities, surprises, wishes, and positive changes. So this is a really powerful time to work with any of those energies in your healing work, your magical work, your personal growth, whatever it is that you're doing. And some of the best stones to use or work with during this time are rhodonite, one of my favorites for new beginnings. So here's a beautiful pink rhodonite with this black veining. But some other stones that you can use are golden tiger's eye, rainbow moonstone, which I have in my ring here, or black moonstone. These are all perfect for the time of the new moon. Now what happens as the moon starts to orbit the earth, we see a little sliver of light reflected from the sun on one portion of the moon. And I have a great diagram and chart of kind of how this works in my book, Cosmic Crystals, so you can kind of see and understand why the light changes as the moon is moving around the earth. So we have next the waxing crescent phase, and this is when that first bit of light is showing up on the moon. It's a fairly substantial little crescent, and this phase is all about action and expansion and growth. And if you think about that, the moon's light is growing in this phase. It's starting to grow, so it makes sense that this is all about kind of moving forward and growing, and it's a really exciting time. It's also great for knowledge and manifesting, personal power and progress and wisdom. And some stones that connect with this lunar phase are green aventurine, and I love working with spheres when I'm connecting with the energy of the moon because it mimics the shape of the moon. So green aventurine is perfect. Also green nephrite jade, strawberry moonstone, and turquoise. These are all excellent. It can be a little hard to find natural turquoise that hasn't been stabilized or bonded with resins or plastics. So if you need a substitute for that in a pinch, you could use something like chrysocolla. As the light of the moon continues to expand and grow a little further, we reach the first quarter moon, and this is where half of the moon is lighted and half is dark, and in this case the right side of the moon will appear lighted. So this phase is about bravery and communication, overcoming life challenges. It's a great time to focus on love, all types of love, overcoming obstacles, deepening and developing your relationships and romances, as well as great for general wellness. So for this moon phase, some of the best crystals are angelite, love angelite, as well as carnelian, rose quartz, and white moonstone. These are all excellent. Next, we have, as the moon's light continues to grow even more, it's moving from where it's half lighted toward when it will be full, when it will be fully lighted. So this is where it's like most of the way lighted with now a crescent of darkness. And this is the waxing gibbous moon. So this phase is all about acceptance and celebration. It's great for decision making and discernment. It's also a time of jubilation, but can, in some instances, also be appropriate for relaxation and surrender and tranquility. So some of the best crystals for this phase are blue lace agate, citrine, coffee moonstone, which is kind of a brownish moonstone with a beautiful sheen that looks a little like the color of coffee with cream in it. It's this beautiful beige color. So coffee moonstone, and then also snowflake obsidian. And then finally, as the moon becomes fully illuminated, we of course move into the time of the full moon. And the full moon is a great time to work with the energy of achievement, completion, dreams, emotions, flow and fulfillment, and intuition, manifestation, protection, and wholeness. And some great crystals to work with at the time of the full moon. And I have a separate blog post all about these 4 full moon crystals are amethyst, labradorite, rainbow moonstone, and white moonstone. And I want to show you, this is my favorite labradorite ring. So lab is a great crystal, and you can see there's a little moon on this ring, a great crystal to work with at the time of the full moon, which will happen in just a few more days. So we're working up to the time of the full moon right now. Now, once the moon has reached kind of that peak where it's fully illuminated, now it moves into its waning phases where the light begins to decrease. So we move into the waning gibbous moon where it's mostly illuminated. There's a crescent of darkness, but it's on the opposite side of the waxing gibbous moon. So that dark crescent flips sides in the waning gibbous moon. And this time is great for setting boundaries, for detachment, letting go, sometimes for receiving, depending on how you're working with this energy. Also reflection, release, and rumination, or really thinking about something. And some great crystals to work with the waning gibbous moon are adularia, which is a really gemmy version of a moonstone. Sometimes you find this under the trade name Sunfire Moonstone, as well as aquamarine, which is one of my favorites. So here's a beautiful aquamarine crystal, kind of a natural little tower, and I have some aquamarine bracelets here as well. So aquamarine, great for the time of the waning gibbous moon. Also black obsidian and lapis lazuli. Next, the light continues to decrease, and now the moon is half lighted but on the left side. So the last quarter moon is the opposite of the first quarter moon. And here is a good time to focus on compassion, empathy, independence and oneness, and self-discovery, and appreciating solitude and inner strength. And some crystals to work with at this time are clear quartz, which I have right here, beautiful clear quartz, as well as peach moonstone and pyrite. Pyrite, also of course known as fool's gold, and rhodochrosite. So these are all excellent to work with during that time of the last quarter moon. Then the moon's light decreases further, and now it's just a single little crescent like it was at the time of the waxing crescent, but again, it's on the opposite side, and we have the waning crystals. Waning crescent moon. So the waning crescent moon is about balanced emotions, emotional release, relaxation, rest and retreat, self-expression, but also can be for solitude and stillness. And some great crystals to work with at this time are apricot Botswana agate, black moonstone, blue calcite, one of my favorites, blue calcite, and tangerine moonstone. And these all support these energetic qualities of this moon phase. Then some people add an additional 9th phase in the lunar cycle called the dark moon. Now, I said the new moon can be a little bit tricky. If you only work with the 8 lunar phases, then the new moon kind of counts as that dark phase. But if you add in the true dark moon, then your new moon will be the very, very first sliver of light before you really get into a waxing crescent, and the dark moon will be when it's completely dark, no sun's light reflected off of its surface at all. And the dark moon can represent authenticity and healing and magic and mystery, reflection, revelation. It's a great time for shadow work. Can also be good for solitude and stillness and wisdom. And some crystals to connect with the energy of the dark moon phase are black tourmaline, which I love. I have a little black tourmaline cluster here, as well as shungite, black melanite garnet, and howlite. So these are all excellent for the time of the dark moon. So I promised in the beginning of the video I would share with you what can you actually do with these crystals? How can you use them to connect with the phases of the moon? Well, during that specific moon phase, you can try working with these crystals under that phase, right, to connect more strongly with the energy of the moon in that phase by wearing them as jewelry, right? Having that energy, kind of something physical and tangible to connect you with the energy of that lunar phase. Or you can actually try holding your crystal, sitting with your crystal, and gazing up at the moon and connecting with its energy. And I'll be releasing a video with some more step-by-step instructions on how to do this a little bit later this week, along with a blog post and podcast episode about my 11 favorite crystals for making magic with the moon. So I'll share 11 crystals that you can use anytime during any moon phase to be connected with the moon. But I wanted to share these special attributes and correspondences of each moon phase, along with some of the best crystals for that specific phase, in case this is something you want to get into. And if you want specific rituals to connect with each lunar phase with these crystals, definitely check out my book, Cosmic Crystals, because I go through a mini ritual to connect with each lunar phase in that book, as well as tons more. So I hope you enjoyed this little talk all about crystals for connecting with the 8 or 9 lunar phases, and stay tuned later this week right here or over on my website at loveandlightschool.com for an in-depth look at my 11 favorite crystals for making magic with the moon. That's it for today. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, crystal blessings.